Greetings, this is Matt Fiello, Technical Marketing Engineer for the Cisco Cloud Networking Compute BU, and we're back with another Intersight Managed Mode Expert Series video. Today we're going to be talking about organizations and resource groups for Intersight Managed Mode, and I'm also going to talk about adding servers to resource groups since that was a fairly recent feature introduced to Intersight. So let's go through a few slides here to kind of baseline organizations and resource groups. First of all, organizations and resource groups, they give you the ability to segment, okay, to compartmentalize your UCS infrastructure, okay, and wrap RBAC around that. Organizations basically focus on the policy model, so pools and policies and templates and domain profiles and server profiles and such. So that is the construct. And the first thing you do when you create a new policy is to actually pick the organization you want that policy to be a part of. Resource groups work with the organization. So you create a resource group and you add the hardware to the resource group, and then you marry the resource group with the organization. By default, there's a default org, there's a default resource group, okay? And when you create new policies, if you don't select the pull down, then you're going to go into the default organization. And when you add new hardware to Intersight with a device claim, it's going to go to the default resource group. As an account administrator, you can go in and edit that default resource group. If you're going to segment and you're going to compartmentalize the hardware, then you absolutely do not want to be part of the default resource group because everybody can see it. Everybody potentially on their role can have access to it. So why do we use organizations and resource groups? We already talked about segmentation, but perhaps you need to carve up your infrastructure for security, compliance, access reasons, okay? There's many ways to do it. There's no one single best practice. It's a matter of what works best for you and your organization. You can certainly segment on business group. You can segment on site location, data center location. In an MSP model, you can segment, of course, on your customer. You might have hardware differences with domain and server configurations and projects and things like that, bare metal versus hypervisor, etc. So you can segment on that. Many ways to do it. The capabilities are there. And I would just say, don't segment for the sake of segmenting. Don't add complexity for the sake of complexity. Do what is meaningful to you. Do what's best for you to serve your needs and your goals in your organization. There's nothing wrong with keeping things simple, but obviously the infrastructure and Intersight is infinitely flexible, especially now that we have shared organizations, and we'll talk about that in a video that follows this particular video. And for those that are still relatively new to Intersight Managed Mode and Intersight, I wanted to bring in a slide about some of the differences between legacy UCS Manager, UCS Central as well, compared to Intersight Managed Mode. First of all, there's no hierarchy of orgs. There's no auto resolution path, okay, where you have nested suborgs that are connected automatically, and you resolve from the lower org. Perhaps your service profile template is down low and you're resolving upward to root. So none of that. You also don't have an automatic deploy function when you make changes, change control. So I change something in a policy, I change something in the template, okay, and it automatically tries to push that down. That's not the way the architecture of Intersight Managed Mode works. It's much more controlled. It's much safer. That's a good thing. Okay, so in other words, I make change, I see change, I then have to deploy change, and then I decide whether to reboot that workload at that time of deployment or thereafter. So I've got to make several bad mistakes, okay, before I would ever be disruptive to an existing workload. Again, that is a good thing. Finally, in the old UCS Manager, UCS Central world, I would talk about segmentation. Okay, you set up buckets of orgs, okay? And that way your blast radius, that thing, that one bad thing that could take down your infrastructure, that bad mistake, is compartmentalized to a small subset versus the whole. That's not really as much a concern with Intersight managed mode because the fact that we're not automatically pushing changes down. The change control process is much uh, methodical. Okay, it's much safer. Okay, so as such, I would say the segmentation criticality, the blast radius concerns are all but mitigated with Intersight managed mode. Again, it's a safer way to operate. Okay, I want to kind of introduce orgs and resource groups from a visual perspective. Okay, so here we have an org, okay, and we have the corresponding policy model for that org. This is a standard siloed org. We have pools, we have different policies for our server, connectivity policies, etc. We have finally our server profile template and finally server profiles. And then we have a resource group. And that's where our hardware is assigned to that resource group. We have a UCS domain, and we also have some standalone C-series servers that are part of that resource group. So then we add the resource group to the org, okay, and that becomes part of the org structure. And then we wrap RBAC roles around that, okay, in its entirety. So this is a way of visualizing, graphically portraying the relationships between the hardware, the resource group, the policy model, and the org, and the RBAC that we're wrapping around it. I want to include a slide about scalability limits. So currently, an Intersight account can have up to 50 organizations, and an Intersight account can have up to 100 resource groups. And then you can go up to 10 resource group memberships per organization. And introducing something new to Intersight is something very exciting, is being able to add individual UCS domain servers to resource groups. So now, up to this point, as of a couple weeks ago, in the life of Intersight and Intersight managed mode, I've had to add an entire domain to a resource group. But now I can pick and choose individual servers southbound of the FIs to be added to a particular resource group. So I can segment further down inside of a domain. So if you want to dedicate a group of servers or a couple chassis of servers to one project or one customer, and then have another couple chassis or group of servers dedicated to another, you can dice that up and segment as you see fit. So I will actually show that in the coming demo here. Okay, so here we are for the demonstration, and we are in Intersight, and I'm in system, and I'm also logged in as the account administrator, so that's what I would need to be to set up everything. And we're going to be switching account roles to show different views. But let's go down here to resource groups first. And you can see I have several resource groups. I have an RG Server 1, RG Server 2-3. Okay. Now, if I click into RG Server 1, you can see that the domain name shows up, but there's this sub-target here. Okay. The sub-target is basically the servers. And if I click on that view, you can see that I've only selected for this resource group, okay, a single server out of my domain, server 1.1, chassis 1, blade 1. Okay. In a similar fashion, if I go back to resource groups and I go to RG server 2-3, I can see that in that resource group, I have two servers assigned, chassis 1, blade 2, chassis 1, blade 3. All right, so I'm creating my resource groups with individual amounts or quantities of servers in that domain. And then, of course, I've associated them with, in my case, two different organizations, T-org A, T-org B. Okay, and I have a corresponding role assigned to those. So I've created a server admin role for each of those orgs. Let's go back and click the role here. You can see that that's server admin. So what that allows me to do is, of course, as an account administrator, I can manage the whole entire domain. So I have purview of all the servers. Okay, I have purview of the domain side of things as well, like the fabric interconnects. Okay, so I have full control over the domain. I could have been something less than an account administrator to actually control. I mean, I could have been a domain administrator with server admin privileges to the two different orgs. Okay, so there's different ways that you can handle the RBAC. But let's go ahead and look at the different views that we have. So let's switch account or role. And I'm going to go down here to org A, server admin. And as you can see, I only have purview, I only have sight and control over the servers. Okay, I don't have anything as a server admin. I can't even see the domain side of the house. If I go to servers, I see a single server because that's what's assigned to that organization, that resource group with one server assigned to this organization. So I've already kind of segmented down this control, this view to a single server. Okay, if I click in here, I'm seeing just one single server. Okay, if I go to the connectivity tab, notice here the domain is not authorized. In other words, I'm not giving you rights to see that from an RBAC perspective, so I'm restricted. Okay, so that may suit your use case. You may need to add more capabilities from an RBAC perspective, but at least that's an indication, an example of how to do it. Let's go ahead and change our account and role again. And let's go to the other org. Let's go to T-org B, and I'm a server admin again, but this time I've been granted access to two servers, the resource group with two servers, then added that to the org B. Okay, so if I click in here, um, I'll see each individual server as I click in, and again, I don't have access to the whole domain. So this capability is really huge for the unified computing system. We've really not had this kind of granularity in UCS Manage or UCS Central. We kind of could fake the view of UCS Central, but we really couldn't lock down the hardware like we can with Intersight. So infinitely more flexible, infinitely more powerful with Intersight, and encourage anyone out there that's sort of on the fence or they haven't made their decision yet. Please get in contact with your account team. Please engage me. I'd love to sit and talk to you about all the benefits of Intersight and Intersight Managed Mode. And with that, that concludes our demonstration. All right, so that concludes our video today about organizations and resource groups. And I hope you were able to learn a few things. The next video that follows this will be about shared organizations. So I encourage you to search out that video. It'll probably take me about a week to put that one out there based on the debut date of this video. And that promises to be a powerful capability within Intersight Managed Mode to really squash down how many policies that you need to go and create and edit across multiple organizations. So make things more efficient. Um, Again, I appreciate you viewing these videos. I appreciate your comments and your feedback, and stay tuned for more exciting videos. There's a lot that's out there. There's a lot more that's coming. Thank you.